you introduce your team or introduce your team and start your panel feedback.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So our team today, again, is consisting of myself, Mervat, and Pat. Mervat is going to be leading us off looking at Michelle's gestures. I will then be following up looking at her energy and vocal variety, and then Pat is going to be finishing us off looking at the overall presentation mastery and the inspiration. So with that, if you want to begin, Murat.
Sure. Michelle, amazing speech. I loved it. It really inspired me personally. Amazing. Talking to Gasher, that I have been asked to comment on. Let me first explain what Gasher is for our whoever not familiar with what purposeful gesture means. Moving your hand in a way that coordinate with the word you speak. And that should be act naturally, add to your speech as a communication way of the best communication skill, the non-verbal way of communication and communicate. And in our way, we communicate non-verbally more than verbally. 90% of our communication is non-verbal. Talking to gesture, you did a great job doing that during explaining the diaphragmatic speech. So when you explain, when you talk about diaphragmatic speech, you asked us, you put your hand on the stomach and the other hand on the chest and ask us to do the same. You really demonstrate what you speak to us through you using your hands, both hands and your whole body. Was amazing. That is exactly what the definition of purposeful gesture and a very good way to use your body gesture to send the message clearly that you want to send. However, you weren't consistent all over your speech doing so. You kind of use non-purposeful gesture or the regular gesture that we all use with our hand and face, which is professional call it non-purposeful. So let me give you some example for area of improvement if you have to redo that speech again, how to use some purposeful gesture in your speech. You have a lot here you see. When you say in the first speech here and now, you could point your finger here and now. When you say, I listen to my own voice, and you point to your own inner self. When you said instead of being you can point at me as an audience. When you say I will be there, so you could use your finger and hand pointing to there. When you say never ever, so you can use that hand. I was doing like that of that never ever to stress and emphasize the message. Other than that, I love your speech and it's really inspired me, and I think you can take it to the next level. One more thing, the poem is so amazing. I love it, but I saw that the green light was there while doing it, so kind of rushed it a little bit. So yeah, adjust the time because the poem is so amazing. and use the gesture during using it, and just slow down during your poem. Thank you very much, Michelle. Your speech, it was amazing, very inspiring to me. Thank you for having that. I enjoy it. Thank you, Mr. Team Lead.
Michelle, you are a very passionate person. This comes across oh so clearly in the way you speak. You can tell that what you are talking about obviously is very, very meaningful to you. And there are times when the things that we are the most passionate about, we put in so much energy into that I think we sometimes kind of overpower our audience. One of the things that I noticed in the way you deliver your speech, you use your energy and you use it like a hammer drill, something that's going to be able to get through a piece of concrete, and you turn that sucker on, and it doesn't matter how hard that concrete is, you're going to get through it, which is wonderful, except for the times when you are trying to be more intimate in terms of the way you are talking to people. There are, I think, ways to be able to maintain levels of energy without necessarily having to try and completely just overpower your audience and make them feel like they're getting a verbal assault. I think you are very good at emphasizing your points, but on the times when you're talking about trying to on the times when you are talking about trying to really connect with the other person, I think you sometimes bring a little too much to it. And so I would say you want to back off a little more. And I think because of the way you have your intensity, you have some vocal variety, but I think you have opportunity for more by being able to back off a little bit, to kind of soften up what you are saying, to be able to provide, instead of maybe having two vocal delivery settings, having 3 or 4 that allow you to have kind of the normal Michelle, the I'm making a very important point, you need to focus on this, Michelle, and then the I'm a soft teddy bear that cares about you a lot, and I want the best for you. You are somebody that has gotten cancer. You're gonna make it through it. I have confidence in you. And doing that, I think, will add just a little more to what you are able to present. So thank you, Michelle.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. Michelle, thank you so much for your presentation today. I want to start off my evaluation with my first thoughts at the end of your presentation, just to kind of give you my, oh my gosh, my first response was wow and thank you. And I think your message, your ability to inspire me, and my pretty strong hunch is everybody, but it was immediately felt at the end of by the end of your speech, and many places in the body of your speech. My second thought was this was packed full advice and inspiration and things to do. So I'm going to unpack that a little bit during my evaluation and perhaps give you a couple of suggestions from my perspective on how you might unpack and maybe repack a couple parts. But I'm going to start off with the very start of your presentation, your story. And the reason you're here today, reason that I felt you were giving your presentation today was your story. I appreciated hearing your story. I think I've heard part of your story before. So that first part of it, I think, is essential to demonstrating to, especially your audience, whether you're speaking to Toastmasters or cancer survivors. Some people in this group may be cancer survivors. So I think that's imperative. I guess my first bit of evaluation might be just to give yourself the gift of giving us a little bit more at the beginning. And I say that because it's got a bit of a sense you wanted to just kind of get your story finished and get into the crux of what you had to give to people. But I would say that your story is a gift to people. So, just put maybe another minute or two into that opening story. And I think that it will just help, gel some of the other pieces. But your story is very inspirational. I'm a pathology lab person, so I went to hearing, I wanted to hear more, but we can talk about that separately, right? Let's see, let's go into the body of your presentation, especially for presentation mastery. I mean, your skill at presentations is so admirable to me and so well developed. I mean, you had a whole way of developing around RAD, the tools RAD. So I thought that was very well done. A couple of pieces I especially liked are in each part of it, there was a tool to use, a tool around resilience. You had the ticker tape thoughts. The A on authenticity, you talked a bit more about how what your story was a little bit more and how you might adapt your story to be authentic. And D, the breathing, oh my gosh, developing that. So what I guess my thoughts leaving you with is maybe just develop a bit more and a little bit less content for 20 minutes might help develop the tools even more. I loved your poem and I wanted to see it. Perhaps that might be a place you could put it alongside your face. I'm not sure, but I just loved it. I felt empowered and ready to put them to use at the end of your presentation. Thank you so much, Michelle. Appreciate your time today. Jonathan?
Yep. So now we have a minute for Michelle to be able to respond to this.
Wow, thank you for the opportunity. I'm just kind of processing all the feedback that I've received, and thank you so much. It's always good to get feedback because no matter where you are in terms of your journey as a speaker, there's always room for improvement. And I always have to remind myself that and to keep me grounded, because I do appreciate the feedback, but I also understand that being an effective communicator, it's a skill that you are always wanting to invest in. Just like with my acting, I know that it's important for me to always take acting classes, no matter how long I've acted. So the feedback was awesome, and Jonathan, yours especially resonated with me in the fact that I am passionate about my speaking and the topic of cancer, and it does come through, and it's good to be aware of making sure that passion doesn't dominate my message. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. We now have some time for the rest of the club to be able to give some feedback to Michelle as well.
I have
This-
some feedback. Oh, you can go, Carolyn.
Oh, I'll be quick. Michelle, your speech knocked my socks off. I would say knocked me over, but I'm sitting down. The only recommendation I'm going to give you is that you had a few really cool lines in the middle of your speech. One thing where you juxtapose breathing and living, and you fumbled a little bit. I recommend putting as much work into those really cool, impactful lines as you did into the poem at the end. Really nail those, and that's what people are gonna take out of your speech. Great job.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about that poem at the end. Have you ever had one of those songs that you sing, you love, you memorize the words, but you never really understood what the song was about? My husband catches me on that all the time because I love music, and you have such a beautiful voice. I caught myself just enjoying your voice, which is good. But then there were pieces of the poem I felt like I missed, and I felt terrible because it's such a great poem and it's something that really relates to me. So I really like how Pat pointed out, maybe put the words on the side, or you really get feedback before of, when I'm reading this poem, are you hearing the words or are you enjoying my voice? And really play around with that a little bit, because both of them are spectacular, but I think
Yeah.
in this speech, especially in this poem, it's very important that people really internalize what you're saying. So think about that, play around. I don't know what the actual answer is, and maybe it is just us reading the words, but I think that's one piece that really could help us take in more of what you're wanting us to take in.
Perfect. And it appears that is all we have time for. So again, thank you, Michelle. And back to you, Mr. General Evaluator. You're muted, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, thank you, Jonathan.